Right, hello wine drinking people. We are back with more of what I've had to drink for $35. You get a few courses from Chef Oliver Saucy and 8 wines. Well, there's 5 wines here, but we had 8 wines that night, and I think we do have them all in the store right now, but we just got them in, and I have to say, these wines were all very well received. You know, we didn't have anything at the Grand Cru Class A level, the wines that were classified in 1855, kind of the made men of the wine business in Bordeaux. If you were classified back then, you really don't have to worry about selling your wine. And, you know, you had a couple hundred years of promoting also. That helps. But these little wines, they make more wine in Bordeaux than anywhere else in France, about 300,000 acres of vines in Bordeaux, as opposed to like 69,000 in Burgundy, 79,000 in Champagne. So by far the largest appellation. Wines we had at the Bordeaux tasting, all very good. I have to say, everything on the table. When I walked through the room and talked to the 35 people there, had a lot of different favorites. To me, that shows we had a lot of good wines. The Darchambault from Graves. Graves is the closest appellation to the city of Bordeaux. It's actually the only appellation that's actually lost acreage over the last 100 years because of urban expansion. I guess at one time they figured the land's more valuable as condos than it is planted to vines. And these Graves are rather simple wines, so maybe some of the more expensive condos, it would be more valuable. But, you know, this little Graves, a blend of Semillon, mostly Sauvignon Blanc, Sauvignon Blanc, Semillon, a little Muscadet, really fresh and bright and clean. 2011, a difficult vintage, but they did a really nice job with this 2011 Darchambault, and a really nice little value for under $15. Just exactly what you expect from a white Graves. The red from a great vintage, 2009, blend of Merlot, Cabernet, and Cabernet Franc, owned by Jean-Philippe Dubourdieu, the same man that owns Clos Florentine, a very famous white winemaker. Anyways, really nice, fresh red. This 2009 vintage, you really notice the fruit, some red currant berry fruit there, but just a simple, easy drinking wine, really light and refreshing. One of the things I love about Bordeaux's is the alcohol level, usually, well, this one's 14%. 09 was a right vintage. Usually 13.5%, like the 2008 vintage wines we had. Next, the 2008 Malmaison, which this is a wine that's owned by Edmond de Rothschild, actually his wife, Nadine de Rothschild, from the Moulisson-Medoc, the northern left bank appellation. And this wine really light and savory, a really nice, easy drinking red, and, you know, not pretending to be anything that it's not, and a really good little value also at under $20 a bottle. Next up, the Côte de Ballieu Saint-Emilion, another 2008. This was a cooler year, so the wine's a little more on the savory side, but several people picked this as their wine of the night. Saint-Emilion, mostly Merlot. This is a blend of 70% Merlot, 20% Cabernet Franc, and 10% Cabernet Sauvignon, some dried herbs, some fresh earth on the nose, a hint of coffee, kind of typical Saint-Emilion there, red plum and currant berry fruit, and just lovely round tannins. One of the things I love about Saint-Emilion and Pomerol, the plush, velvety feel you get on your mouth, just like this La Fleur de Roses Pomerol. This is a family-owned property, and mostly Merlot, some Cabernet and Cabernet Franc in there, some lovely dried herbs and spices in this, and some milk chocolate. A really plummy and round wine on the tongue with lovely, soft, velvety texture and lovely savoriness to this wine. This 2009 vintage is phenomenal. Even these no-name wines are really nice in 2009. I'd never heard of this La Fleur de Roses, but James Suckling rated it 90 points. So the Chateau Malloret, Medoc was next. Now we're getting into the more Cabernet heavy wines, but what most people don't realize is even in the Medoc, the left bank, there's still more Merlot planted, and none of the wines we had this evening were predominantly Cabernet Sauvignon. This wine it's nice, they have it right on the back label here, 50%, 6% Merlot. The Cabernet, 41%, so maybe the most Cabernet of any of the wines we had. You noticed it a little more darker, richer berry fruits, and the tannins on the back of your palate you really notice in Cabernet more so. The Merlot is more in the front of your palate, but really nice little wine, family-owned property, and dark cherry plum fruits with some fresh black earth, some dark cocoa spice, a nice amount of forward fruit there on the tongue, dark cherry and plum, smooth and silky tannins, a very drinkable style, but you could just tell you can even keep this wine for 3 to 5 years or more in your cellar as an Medoc from 2009. And then the big boy, the Beausejour, we highlighted this one. We sent the offer out. This is owned by the same family that owns Champagne Louis Roederer, and very rich and very decadent vintage 2010. A lot of structure in these wines. This wine's made up of, the vineyard's made up of 50% Merlot, 40% Cab, and 5% Malbec and Petit Verdot. This wine shows the pedigree of this 2010 vintage. A lot of structure, even in entry-level Saint Estèphe. And we've got an amazing price on this. $24. You cannot find Saint Estèphes, especially with this kind of pedigree, this family behind them. One of the things it takes to make great wine is money. And the folks at Louis Roeder have got some cash. They have thrown it into this property, which I believe they bought it in 1993 or 1994. Hey, guess what they just bought? Pichon Comtesse de Lalande. These guys are getting into the Bordeaux business in a big way. They are definitely a firm to watch. And this 2010 you could keep for 5 or 10 years in your cellar. Saint Estèphe's always a little on the austere side. This wine's got lovely freshness, firm tannins, and really good length and complexity on the finish for an entry-level Saint Estèphe. And then our sweet wine, Castelnau de Soudereau. A lot of these great Sauternes houses like Soudereau are starting to make second wines. This Castelnau from a great vintage 2007, a lot of peach and apricot fruit with some lovely honeyed character. That's what you get in a vintage, a great vintage like 07, and great vintages in Sauternes, usually not great vintages for reds, as 07 was the last vintage. It was considered not very good in Bordeaux. Actually, 2011 was a little difficult also, but this wine has got great structure, 100 grams per liter of residual sugar. That's about what you find in Coca-Cola, but wonderful acidity, wonderful freshness at the end, leaving your mouth salivating for another sip. And try these Sauternes to start the meal out. A little raw oysters and Sauternes, an excellent pairing, something you'll find they do in Bordeaux. All right, well, that's what we had to drink at the Bordeaux tasting. I'm your host, Andrew Lamposoni, signing off for the Wine Watch, saying remember, always drink the good stuff first.